How can you grow in your courage, in your faith? If that's you who's interested, then let's look at it as we recap yesterday's sermon. Well, yesterday we preached on Esther 5, and Esther 5 is the transformed Esther. Esther 5 is the Esther 2.0. She just had a moment in prayer for 3 days, 3 nights. She's been praying and fasting for that moment. And now she's stepping into courage. Now, that itself is the lesson, honestly, like step into prayer, right? Prayer will highlight certain things and will give you certain ways to grow in faith. But now let's look at the practical aspect, because that was sermon of last week. How does she do it? Number one, she actually risks. She leans into the fear. Faith risks in the middle of fear. I don't think Esther was unafraid completely, like, oh, this is no big deal. I'll just step in front of the king. She had to deal with her fear, right? That's what she did, and she stepped into it. She went in front of the king with her royal robe, stood in the middle of the court, held her breath, and then the king extended the scepter and said, come on, here's an audience. What do you want? Now, number two, practical one, here's how we grow, right? By risking. Risking grows your courage. If you start to get used to risk, you start to have a feeling for it in faith. Number two, planning. That's kind of like the opposite, right? But she's not rushing the process. She's not like, oh, now that I have an audience, let me tell you about the destruction of the Jewish people. I don't want that. Blah, blah, blah. She's not doing any of it. No panic moves. She says, I've prepared a dinner. I've prepared a feast. Do you and Haman, do you guys want to come, right? Kind of, that's a Simon translation. And so then they come, Haman and King Xerxes, and after the dinner, Xerxes asks, so what's your wish? And that will be the second chance to tell her what's on her heart. And she says, oh, another delay, right? She puts another delay. She says, my wish and my request is, ta-da. Now tell it, Esther, right? No. If I found favor in the sight of the king, yeah, tell us, right? And if it pleases the king to grant my wish, yes, he told you 2 times, right? And fulfill my request, yeah, he told you, man. Let the king and Haman come for another feast. What is she doing? Well, she's working a plan. She's building something. She's building suspense for the king. He's now really intrigued now. He's, crazy to find out what's going to happen. Secondly, she's building intel on the enemy. She now knows way more than she knew before about Haman. She knows how full of himself he is. She knows where his, vulnerabilities are, etc., etc. She was also building connection. She didn't have the connection with the king before. And lastly, she's building on the plan of God, because next chapter we'll find out that this delay actually caused a moment where the king had an encounter with, like, what Mordecai had done for him. And Mordecai will change in the view of king. The Jewish people with that will change in the view of a king. So she is building on the plan of God. Number two, as I said, how to grow in courage and faith. Hold on to plan. Be patient. Don't do panic moves. Last one is more seen in Mordecai. Mordecai just resists. He does not stand up. He does not bow down as Haman exits the palace. And that makes him so mad, so angry, right? And Haman plans on killing Mordecai on a gallows that is like super high. 75 cubits, 50 cubits, 50 cubits. That's 22 meters. That's 22 meters. It's ridiculously high, right? So this is apparently making the situation worse. But for Mordecai, this is a question of integrity. Like, will I bow down to my enemies? Will I bow down to my fears, or will I bow down to the Lord, right? Will I shake? Who do I really fear? And I think Mordecai had the fear of the Lord. That's how we grow in courage. By the fear of the Lord, by learning how to fear the one who cannot just kill, but also kill and throw in hell, right? Okay, three ways to grow in courage. Number one, risking. Get used to risk. Risk by faith. Don't risk and then call it faith. But if by faith you know something is the right thing, call that person. Start this conversation. Get into the room, right? Secondly, by working the plan, don't rush the process. Wait on the Lord, step by step. Patience and faith inherit the promises, Hebrews says, right? Okay. And lastly, put your fears into perspective. The fear of the Lord should be our top fear, and that should put everything else under perspective. And that's, my friends, is how we grow in courage and faith. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful week.